Imagine a galaxy where Anakin Skywalker is not denied, but honored, granted the title of Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith. No anger, no betrayal, no fall to the dark side. Trusted by the Council, standing beside Obi-Wan and Yoda, Anakin's choices reshape the fate of the Republic, and Darth Sidious's dark plan begins to crumble. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith, the entire course of the galaxy would have shifted in unimaginable ways. When the Jedi Council finally grants him the rank he so desperately desires, a deep wound in his heart begins to heal. Instead of resentment, Anakin feels recognition, a sense that his loyalty and sacrifices have finally been acknowledged. The anger that once grew in him like a storm now softens, replaced by pride and trust in the Jedi Order. As a master, Anakin is given access to the Council's most guarded knowledge. He is no longer treated as an outsider, but as a true equal among the great Jedi. The whispers of doubt and betrayal that once echoed in his mind are silenced, and Palpatine's influence begins to weaken. Anakin listens to the Chancellor's promises of power, but, unlike before, his need for validation has already been satisfied. He no longer yearns for what Palpatine offers, because the Order has finally given him a place of honor. Padme Amidala notices the change in him. Instead of restless anger, she sees calm determination. The fear of losing her is still strong, but Anakin begins to confide in Yoda, who now treats him with deeper respect. Yoda warns him that attachment is dangerous. Yet because Anakin feels heard rather than judged, he listens with a clearer mind. The visions of her death still haunt him, but now he seeks answers from the Jedi, not the Sith. When Palpatine reveals himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin's loyalty is tested. In this path, he does not hesitate. As a Jedi Master, he feels the responsibility of the Order on his shoulders. He goes to the Council and exposes the truth. Together with Mace Windu and other Jedi Masters, Anakin helps confront Sidious. The battle is fierce, but with Anakin at Windu's side, Sidious cannot overcome them. The Dark Lord is finally defeated, his grip on the Republic broken. The Clone Wars begin to end swiftly. Without Sidious manipulating both sides, the conflict loses its purpose. The galaxy moves toward peace, and Anakin stands not as Darth Vader, but as a true Jedi Master. Padme survives, and their children, Luke and Leia, are born into a galaxy where their father is a hero, not a fallen knight. The fate of the galaxy changes because one choice, one recognition, saved Anakin from the shadows. If Anakin Skywalker had been granted the title of Jedi Master during the event of Revenge of the Sith, the galaxy's destiny would have taken a very different turn. When the Council acknowledges his achievements and raises him to the rank of Master, Anakin feels a sense of acceptance he had long been denied. The bitterness that once poisoned his heart is soothed, and the feeling of being an outsider begins to fade. His anger toward the Jedi weakens, and for the first time, he believes he belongs among them. With his new status, Anakin is welcomed into deeper discussions of the Council. He gains access to knowledge once hidden from him, and this openness strengthens his loyalty to the Order. Instead of suspicion and secrecy, there is trust and inclusion. This trust becomes the barrier that stops Palpatine's manipulation from taking root. When the Chancellor tempts him with talk of forbidden powers, Anakin listens, but does not feel the same desperation as before. The promise of greatness no longer carries weight, because he already has the recognition he once craved. Padme Amidala sees the difference in the man she loves. Anakin is calmer, more thoughtful, no longer consumed by anger or the need to prove himself. Though the visions of her death still haunt him, he turns not to secrecy, but to guidance. He approaches Yoda and Mace Windu, sharing his fears openly. Instead of judgment, they offer him wisdom, and because he feels respected, he accepts their counsel. His attachment remains a burden, but he begins to see that love does not have to lead him into darkness. When a moment comes and Palpatine reveals his identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin does not hesitate. His loyalty to the Jedi is firm. He informs the Council, and together they march to confront the Sith Lord. The duel is fierce, but Anakin stands at Mace Windu's side instead of against him. With his strength added to theirs, Sidious cannot prevail. The Dark Lord of the Sith is struck down, ending his reign of deception before it can consume the Republic. Without Sidious guiding the shadows, the Clone Wars crumble. The Separatists lose their power, and peace slowly returns to the galaxy. Anakin remains a Jedi Master, celebrated not as Darth Vader, but as the protector who saved the Republic. Padme lives, and their children, Luke and Leia, are born into a brighter future where their father is remembered as a hero instead of a fallen knight. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during the days of Revenge of the Sith, the course of destiny would have been forever changed. The moment the Council speaks the words, granting him the rank he long desired, a storm inside Anakin begins to calm. The bitterness that once brewed in his heart fades into relief, for he finally feels the recognition he had sought all his life. Instead of doubting the Jedi, he starts to trust them as family, no longer trapped in the shadows of mistrust. With this new honor, Anakin enters the council chambers not as a doubtful outsider, but as an equal. Secrets that had once been withheld from him are now revealed, and his voice carries the weight of respect. This openness brings him closer to Jedi like Yoda and Mace Windu, who now treat him with true regard. The resentment that once fueled his anger against them weakens, and a stronger sense of unity grows within him. Palpatine still whispers his promises of power and forbidden knowledge, but Anakin's heart is steadier. The lure of saving Padme Amidala with dark power is strong, yet it is not desperate. Instead of clinging to the Chancellor's words, he finds comfort in confiding his visions to the Jedi Council. For the first time, he chooses trust over secrecy. The Council does not dismiss him, but listens carefully, offering guidance. Even though Yoda warns that fear of loss leads to darkness, Anakin feels respected, and because of that, he is willing to listen. Padme herself notices the difference in him. The anger that once burned in his eyes is softer, replaced by resolve. Though his love for her remains powerful, it is no longer driven by obsession. He begins to believe that together they may face the future without giving in to fear. When the truth of Darth Sidious is revealed, Anakin's loyalty is tested, but this time there is no hesitation. He stands with the Jedi, side by side with Mace Windu. He confronts the Dark Lord in his chamber. The duel rages, lightning and sabers colliding, but with Anakin fighting alongside the Masters, Sidious is overwhelmed and defeated. With the Sith Lord destroyed, the Clone Wars collapse, and the galaxy begins to heal. Anakin stands as a true Jedi Master, not a fallen knight, remembered as the protector who saved the Republic. Padme lives, and Luke and Leia are born into a world shaped by hope instead of fear. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith, the galaxy would have witnessed a very different destiny unfold. The moment the Council acknowledges him with the title, the feelings of anger and betrayal that once poisoned his soul begin to fade. At last, he feels seen, respected, and trusted by the very order he had sacrificed so much to protect. The weight of rejection no longer presses on his heart, and the dangerous seeds of resentment are not given the chance to grow. As a Jedi Master, Anakin is brought into the innermost discussions of the Council. No longer left in the dark, he is trusted with the wisdom and secrets of the Jedi. This trust strengthens his loyalty, and the doubts planted by Chancellor Palpatine struggle to take root. When the Chancellor tempts him with the promise of powers to save Padme Amidala, Anakin does not listen with desperation. He listens with caution, for he already feels the honor and belonging that Palpatine once used to manipulate him. The visions of Padme's death still haunt him, but instead of suffering alone, Anakin turns to the Council. He speaks with Yoda, who listens carefully, not as a critic, but as a teacher guiding a respected master. The advice is the same, to let go of fear and attachment, but Anakin hears it differently now. Because he feels understood, He is willing to seek balance instead of rebelling against their words. His bond with Obi-Wan Kenobi also grows stronger, for Anakin no longer feels overshadowed or doubted. Padme notices the change as well. Her husband is no longer restless and consumed by anger, but calmer, more thoughtful, and more determined to protect peace without losing himself. She holds hope that their love can survive without falling into tragedy. When the time comes and Palpatine reveals his true identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin does not hesitate. Instead of standing torn between the Jedi and the Sith, he chooses his path with clarity. He joins Mace Windu and the Jedi Masters in confronting Sidious. Together, they fight with unmatched strength. With Anakin at their side, the Dark Lord is overwhelmed, struck down before he can unleash his empire. The galaxy begins to heal as the Clone Wars draw to a close. Anakin stands as a hero and a true Jedi Master. Padme survives, and Luke and Leia are born into a brighter future, where their father is remembered not as Darth Vader, but as the protector who saved them all. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during the events of Revenge of the Sith, the Force itself might have shifted toward a different destiny. The moment the Jedi Council bestows upon him the rank he long desired, the storm of anger within him begins to quiet. For years, he carried feelings of being unrecognized, of being doubted despite his victories. Now, at last, he feels trusted and valued, not just as a warrior, but as a true guardian of peace. The recognition fills the emptiness that once left him vulnerable to whispers of temptation. As a Jedi Master, Anakin steps into the council chamber with newfound confidence. He is no longer treated as an apprentice who questions authority, but as a respected equal among legends. The hidden knowledge of the Jedi is open to him, and the sense of secrecy that once separated him from his peers fades away. The bonds between him and masters such as Yoda and Mace Windu strengthen, for respect has replaced suspicion. The bitterness that could have driven him into darkness is replaced by loyalty and trust. Chancellor Palpatine still seeks to draw him in, speaking of powers beyond the Jedi, of ways to prevent death itself. But Anakin listens differently now. He does not cling to every word out of desperation, because the Jedi have already given him the honor he once craved. Palpatine's influence begins to lose its hold, for Anakin feels whole, not broken. Yet the visions of Padme Amidala's death still linger in his dreams. Instead of hiding them in silence, he shares them with the Jedi Council. Yoda offers calm wisdom, and Obi-Wan Kenobi lends steady support. Anakin does not feel judged, and that changes everything. He searches for answers within the light rather than in the shadows. His love for Padme remains strong, but it is no longer poisoned by fear and secrecy. When Palpatine reveals himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin does not waver. His path is clear. He stands beside Mace Windu and the Jedi, determined to end the Sith's deception. In the battle, Anakin's strength turns the tide. With him by their side, Sidious is defeated, his schemes destroyed before the Empire can rise. The Clone Wars soon come to an end. The galaxy begins to heal, and Anakin Skywalker is remembered not as a fallen Sith Lord, but as a true Jedi Master, a protector of peace, and a father of Luke and Leia, who were born into a future shaped by hope instead of fear. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during the time of Revenge of the Sith, the galaxy would have turned toward a brighter destiny. The moment the Council finally grants him the rank, the bitterness and doubt that had grown within him begin to fade. For so long, he carried anger that his sacrifices and victories were never truly recognized. Now he feels accepted and trusted as an equal among the greatest Jedi, and that sense of belonging fills the emptiness that once made him vulnerable to the dark whispers of the Sith. As a master, Anakin gains access to the Council's deepest knowledge. No longer left in the shadows, he is included in their decisions, their debates, and their wisdom. The secrecy that once separated him from them is gone, and with it, the resentment that poisoned his heart. Masters like Yoda and Mace Windu begin to treat him with full respect, while Obi-Wan Kenobi feels relief, seeing his brother-in-arms finally find peace. This recognition strengthens the bonds within the Order, making Anakin's loyalty to the Jedi stronger than ever before. Chancellor Palpatine still tempts him with promises of forbidden power, speaking of ways to prevent death and cheat fate itself. But Anakin is no longer desperate for guidance. He listens carefully, yet with caution, because he already possesses the honor and recognition he once longed for. Palpatine's influence weakens, his manipulations losing their grip on the young Jedi, who now stands proud in the light. The visions of Padme Amidala's death still haunt him, but Anakin does not bear this burden in silence. Instead, he turns to the Council, opening his heart to Yoda and Obi-Wan. They guide him not with judgment, but with wisdom, teaching him to balance love and fear. Padme notices the change in him too. His temper softens, his anger fades, and she sees a man determined to protect peace without being consumed by darkness. When Palpatine reveals himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin's choice is clear. There is no hesitation. He stands with Mace Windu and the Jedi Masters against the Sith Lord. The duel is fierce, lightning filling the chamber, but with Anakin's strength added to theirs, Sidious is overwhelmed and defeated. The Clone Wars come to an end without the rise of an empire. Anakin Skywalker remains a Jedi Master, a hero of the Republic, and the father of Luke and Leia, who are born into a galaxy of hope rather than fear. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during Revenge of the Sith, the galaxy's fate would have unfolded along a very different path. When the Council finally grants him the rank he so desperately longed for, the frustration and bitterness within him begin to fade. For years, he had carried the weight of being doubted, treated as too young or too reckless despite his victories. Now, for the first time, he feels fully trusted and recognized by the Jedi Order. The storm of resentment that Palpatine had fed begins to lose its strength. With the title of Master, Anakin steps into the Council chamber as an equal. He is no longer excluded from their wisdom, no longer left in the shadows of secrecy. He learns the deeper truths of the Force, and the bonds between him and Jedi like Yoda and Mace Windu grow stronger. Obi-Wan Kenobi feels pride in his former apprentice, relieved that his brother has at last found peace. The sense of unity eases Anakin's heart, and the temptation of the dark side struggles to find a place within him. Chancellor Palpatine still whispers of forbidden powers, of secrets that could save Padme Amidala from death. Yet Anakin no longer listens with desperation. The Chancellor's promises no longer fill a void, for that void has already been healed by the recognition of the Jedi. Anakin feels balanced, not broken, and Palpatine's influence begins to slip through his fingers. The visions of Padme's suffering remain, but Anakin chooses honesty instead of secrecy. He shares them with Yoda, and the wise master counsels him to let go of fear. For once, Anakin listens, not out of obedience, but out of respect. Padme herself notices the change in him. His eyes are calmer, his anger softened. He is still determined to protect her, but he no longer walks the dangerous path of obsession. When Palpatine reveals his true face as Darth Sidious, Anakin makes his choice without hesitation. He joins Mace Windu and the Jedi to confront the Sith Lord. The duel is fierce, but with Anakin fighting beside the Masters, Sidious is overwhelmed. The Dark Lord falls, and his empire dies before it can rise. The Clone Wars quickly draw to a close. Anakin remains a Jedi Master, honored as a savior of the Republic. Padme survives to raise their children, Luke and Leia, in a galaxy shaped not by tyranny, but by hope and peace. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during the events of Revenge of the Sith, the future of the galaxy would have taken a brighter turn. The moment the Jedi Council finally grants him the rank he had long desired, the fire of anger and resentment inside him begins to calm. For years, he felt overlooked, doubted, and untrusted, despite all he had sacrificed and achieved for the Republic. Now, with the recognition he longed for, Anakin feels pride and acceptance, a sense that he truly belongs among the greatest Jedi of the Order. As a Jedi Master, Anakin steps into the council chamber as an equal. He is no longer excluded from knowledge or left in the dark when great decisions are made. The secrecy that once made him feel like an outsider fades away, replaced with the trust of his peers. Masters such as Yoda and Mace Windu treat him with respect, and Obi-Wan Kenobi looks on with relief, proud of the man his brother-in-arms has become. The bonds of trust strengthen, and the bitterness that once poisoned Anakin's heart begins to fade. Chancellor Palpatine still attempts to draw Anakin into his web of lies, offering promises of power and the forbidden knowledge to stop death itself. Yet Anakin no longer listens with desperation. His heart is steadier, his mind calmer, because the Jedi have given him the honor and recognition he once sought in the Chancellor's friendship. Palpatine's influence weakens, his manipulations slipping as Anakin grows more confident in the light. The visions of Padme Amidala's death still haunt him, but instead of bearing the weight alone, Anakin turns to the council. Yoda listens to his fears, guiding him with wisdom, while Obi-Wan supports him as a true friend. Anakin does not feel judged, and because he is respected, he chooses to trust their guidance. Padme notices the change as well. He is more at peace, less consumed by fear, and she finds hope that their love will not lead them into tragedy. When Palpatine finally reveals himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin's choice is clear. He stands with Mace Windu and the Jedi, confronting the Sith Lord in battle. With Anakin's strength added to theirs, Sidious is defeated, his empire destroyed before it can rise. The Clone Wars come to an end, and peace slowly returns. Anakin remains a Jedi Master, remembered as a hero, while Padme lives to raise Luke and Leia in a galaxy shaped not by fear, but by hope. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during Revenge of the Sith, the fate of the galaxy would have been forever changed. The moment the Council acknowledges him and grants him the rank he long desired, the anger and bitterness that once lived inside him begin to fade. For so long he had felt overlooked and distrusted, despite his victories and sacrifices. Now, with the title of Master, Anakin feels recognized, respected, and truly part of the Order he had served with such devotion. The weight of rejection no longer presses upon him, and the shadows of doubt lose their hold. As a Jedi Master, Anakin sits in the council chamber not as an outsider, but as an equal. The secrets once hidden from him are shared openly, and his voice is heard with the same respect as the others. Yoda, Mace Windu, and Obi-Wan Kenobi regard him with trust, and the bond between them begins to heal. The unity of the Jedi strengthens, and the resentment that could have driven Anakin toward the darkness is replaced with loyalty and peace. Chancellor Palpatine still whispers his temptations, promising forbidden powers to save Padme Amidala from death. Yet Anakin no longer listens with desperation. The Chancellor's words do not fill an empty space, for that emptiness has already been healed by the recognition of the Jedi Council. Palpatine's manipulations weaken, his grasp on Anakin slipping with every passing day. The visions of Padme's suffering still trouble Anakin, but instead of hiding them, he confides in the council. Yoda listens and counsels him with calm wisdom, reminding him that fear leads to the dark side. Obi-Wan offers his friendship, standing by him as he always had. Anakin feels understood rather than judged, and in that understanding, his heart steadies. Padme herself notices the change in him. He is calmer, no longer consumed by restless anger, but filled with resolve to protect peace without losing himself. When Palpatine finally reveals his true identity as Darth Sidious, Anakin chooses without hesitation. He stands alongside Mace Windu and the Jedi Masters in battle against the Sith Lord. The duel is fierce, lightning and sabers crashing through the chamber. But with Anakin's strength added to theirs, Sidious is overwhelmed and destroyed. The Clone Wars swiftly come to an end. Without Sidious's control, the Separatists collapse, Anakin Skywalker remains a Jedi Master, honored as a hero of the Republic. Padme survives, and their children, Luke and Leia, are born into a galaxy of hope, not fear. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during Revenge of the Sith, the destiny of the galaxy would have shifted in ways few could imagine. The instant the Jedi Council announces their decision, a weight lifts from Anakin's heart. For years he felt mistrusted, overlooked, and held back despite his courage and victories. Now he feels truly seen and honored as an equal among the greatest Jedi. The fire of resentment that once threatened to consume him begins to cool, replaced by pride, loyalty, and trust in the Order. As a master, Anakin enters the council chamber with new confidence. He is no longer excluded from their secrets or treated as one who has yet to earn their faith. The hidden knowledge of the Jedi is open to him, and in this openness, the seeds of doubt and anger fade. Yoda regards him with respect. Mace Windu acknowledges his strength, and Obi-Wan Kenobi feels great relief to see his brother rise to his rightful place. The unity between Anakin and the Council grows stronger, creating bonds that the dark side cannot easily break. Chancellor Palpatine continues to tempt him, speaking of powers that could save Padme Amidala from death. Yet Anakin does not listen with the same desperation. Palpatine's words no longer feel like salvation, because Anakin already has the recognition and honor he once sought in the Chancellor's approval. The shadows of manipulation weaken, and Palpatine's grip begins to slip. The visions of Padme's suffering still trouble Anakin, but he does not carry them alone. He shares his fears with the Council. Yoda counsels him to let go of fear, and Obi-Wan stands beside him as a friend and brother. Because Anakin feels understood and respected, he chooses to face these visions with clarity, not secrecy. Padme herself notices the difference in him. He is calmer, steadier, and filled with hope instead of anger. When the truth finally comes, and Palpatine reveals himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin makes his choice without hesitation. He joins Mace Windu and the other Jedi Masters in confronting the Sith Lord. The duel is fierce, but with Anakin's strength added to theirs, Sidious cannot prevail. He is struck down, ending his empire before it can rise. The Clone Wars quickly fall apart without Sidious's command. Anakin Skywalker remains a Jedi Master, remembered as a hero of the Republic. Padme survives to give birth to Luke and Leia, and the galaxy steps into a future guided by peace and hope, not fear. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith, the fate of the galaxy would have unfolded in a far different way. The moment the Jedi Council grants him the title, the deep frustration that lived within him begins to fade. For years, he had carried the weight of being doubted, of feeling that his loyalty and sacrifices were never fully recognized. At last, he feels trusted and valued, standing as an equal among the greatest Jedi. The recognition fills the emptiness in his heart and calms the storm of anger that once threatened to consume him. As a Jedi Master, Anakin enters the council chamber not as an outsider, but as one of them. The secrets once hidden from him are revealed, and the veil of mistrust begins to fall away. Yoda treats him with respect. Mace Windu listens to his words with greater trust, and Obi-Wan Kenobi looks on with pride, relieved to see his former apprentice find peace. The unity within the Jedi grows stronger, and with that unity, the dark side finds fewer cracks to exploit. Chancellor Palpatine still tries to seduce him with promises of forbidden power, tempting him with ways to save Padme Amidala from death. Yet Anakin is no longer desperate for answers. The Chancellor's words do not carry the same weight, for Anakin has already been given the honor and recognition he once sought. The pull of the dark side weakens as Palpatine's influence begins to slip away. The visions of Padme's suffering still haunt him, but Anakin chooses to share them rather than conceal them. He speaks openly with Yoda and Obi-Wan, and they offer him counsel and support. Because Anakin feels respected and understood, he listens with patience. His fear does not vanish, but it no longer controls him. Padme notices the difference in him as well. His anger is tempered, his heart is calmer, and he carries himself with the steady confidence of a true Jedi. When Palpatine reveals himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin does not hesitate. He joins Mace Windu and the Jedi Masters to confront the Sith Lord. The battle is fierce, lightning and sabers clashing in a storm of power, but with Anakin at their side, Sidious is overwhelmed and destroyed. The Clone Wars quickly draw to a close. Anakin Skywalker remains a Jedi Master, honored as the protector of the Republic. Padme lives to raise Luke and Leia, and the galaxy enters a new era of hope, free from the shadow of the Sith. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during Revenge of the Sith, the story of the galaxy would have turned toward a different destiny. The moment the Jedi Council grants him the title, a deep calm settles over him. For so long, he had lived in the shadow of doubt, feeling that his loyalty and sacrifice were not enough for the Order. At last, with the rank of Master, he feels recognized and trusted. The frustration and anger that once grew inside him begin to fade, replaced with pride and belonging. As a Jedi Master, Anakin takes his seat in the council chamber not as an uncertain knight, but as an equal among legends. No longer is he excluded from their wisdom or treated with suspicion. He is given access to the knowledge once hidden from him, and with that comes a stronger sense of loyalty. Yoda speaks to him with respect, Mace Windu listens to his counsel, and Obi-Wan Kenobi feels great relief to see his brother rise with honor. The bond between Anakin and the Jedi strengthens, leaving little space for the dark side to take hold. Chancellor Palpatine still tempts him with promises of forbidden powers, offering ways to save Padme Amidala from death. But Anakin listens with a calmer heart. The Chancellor's words no longer feel like the only answer, for Anakin has already been given the recognition he once longed for. Palpatine's influence weakens as Anakin begins to doubt the sincerity of his guidance. The visions of Padme's death continue to haunt his dreams, but Anakin does not keep them locked in silence. He turns to the council and shares his fears. Yoda offers him wisdom about letting go of fear, and Obi-Wan gives him reassurance as a true friend and brother. Anakin feels heard and respected, and that makes all the difference. Padme herself notices the change. He is no longer restless and consumed by anger, but steadier, more determined to protect their future without being ruled by obsession. When Palpatine finally reveals his true nature as Darth Sidious, Anakin makes his choice without hesitation. He stands with Mace Windu and the Jedi Masters in a battle against the Sith Lord. The clash is fierce, but with Anakin fighting at their side, Sidious is overpowered and destroyed. The Clone Wars soon come to an end. The galaxy begins to heal, and Anakin Skywalker remains a Jedi Master, remembered as a hero. Padme lives to raise Luke and Leia, who are born into a future guided by peace, not fear. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith, the fate of the galaxy would have shifted in ways no one could have imagined. When the Jedi Council grants him this long-awaited honor, Anakin feels the weight of doubt and resentment lift from his shoulders. He had always believed the Council looked upon him with mistrust, but now he finally feels acknowledged, valued, and secure in his place among the Jedi. The bitterness that once gnawed at him begins to fade, replaced with a sense of belonging and pride. Sitting in the council chambers as a Jedi Master, Anakin is no longer treated as an outsider, but as an equal. Yoda speaks to him as a fellow guardian of peace. Mace Windu gives him the respect he had long craved, and Obi-Wan Kenobi looks on with pride at his brother's achievement. With the rank of Master comes access to knowledge and wisdom once kept from him, and this knowledge strengthens his loyalty to the Jedi rather than turning him away from them. The visions of Padme Amidala's death still torment him, yet instead of hiding them in fear, Anakin brings them to the council. Yoda reminds him that fear of loss leads to the dark side, and Obi-Wan assures him that together they will find a way. Padme, too, notices the calm in him. He is not consumed by obsession, but driven by hope and balance. Chancellor Palpatine continues to whisper in Anakin's ear, tempting him with forbidden powers to save Padme. But the promise of the dark side no longer feels like the only path. With the Council's trust now given, Anakin sees through the Chancellor's lies more clearly. Palpatine's grip begins to weaken as Anakin questions his intentions. When the Chancellor finally reveals himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin stands firmly with the Jedi. Instead of cutting down Mace Windu in betrayal, he fights alongside him. The combined strength of Windu, Yoda, and Anakin is too great, and Sidious is defeated before his plans can fully unfold. The Clone Wars end soon after. With Sidious gone, the Republic begins to heal, and the Jedi Order regains its strength. Anakin Skywalker, now a Jedi Master, is celebrated as a hero who saved the galaxy from darkness. Padme survives to raise Luke and Leia in a future filled with light, peace, and hope. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith, his path would have taken a far different turn from the tragic fate he once faced. When the Jedi Council acknowledges his power and grants him the rank of Master, Anakin feels the weight of mistrust and rejection leave his heart. No longer treated as an outsider, he is welcomed as an equal among Yoda, Mace Windu, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. The recognition he had long desired finally brings him peace, and his anger softens into gratitude. Sitting among the council, Anakin listens not as a defiant knight, but as a respected voice. Obi-Wan's pride is evident, for he knows his brother has reached the honor he always believed he deserved. Yoda speaks to him with wisdom, guiding him to release his fears, while Mace Windu, though stern, offers him the respect he had once withheld. With this new trust, Anakin no longer feels torn between duty and desire. The haunting visions of Padme Amidala's death still weigh heavily on him, but as a master, he chooses to share them with the Council. Instead of secrecy, he seeks guidance, and together they search for answers. Yoda counsels him to let go of fear, Obi-Wan assures him of their unity, and even Mace, once skeptical, stands with him. Padme notices the change in her husband's spirit. His desperation has been replaced with determination and calm. Chancellor Palpatine, still weaving his web of deception, tries to lure Anakin with promises of forbidden power. Yet Anakin no longer feels cornered. With access to the holocrons and wisdom of the Order, he sees that there are paths to protect Padme that do not require betraying the Jedi. Palpatine's influence begins to crumble as Anakin grows more aware of his manipulation. When the time of truth arrives and Palpatine reveals himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin's choice is clear. Standing with Mace Windu, Yoda, and the Jedi, he confronts the Sith Lord. Instead of turning against his allies, he fights beside them. Together, their strength overwhelms Sidious, ending the Sith's long-hidden scheme. The Clone Wars conclude with victory for the Republic. Anakin, now a Jedi Master, emerges not as Darth Vader, but as the savior of the galaxy. Padme lives to see peace restored, and together they raise Luke and Leia in a world built on hope rather than fear. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith, his destiny would have shifted in ways few could imagine. When the Council grants him the title, the doubt and bitterness that had built inside his heart begin to fade. For years he had felt overlooked, despite his unmatched skills and sacrifices for the Republic, but now he is recognized as an equal among Yoda, Mace Windu, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. This recognition eases his inner turmoil and brings a new calm to his spirit. Anakin steps into his role with confidence, and Obi-Wan is proud to see his brother rise to the station he deserves. Yoda offers words of caution, reminding him that mastery is not only about power but wisdom, while Mace Windu, though still cautious, shows him the respect he long sought. For the first time, Anakin feels accepted, no longer torn between his own ambition and the Council's distrust. The visions of Padme Amidala's death in childbirth still haunt him, but as a master, Anakin has the courage to share them openly with the Jedi. The Council listens, and together they begin searching for ways to preserve life without embracing the dark side. Yoda counsels him to free himself from fear, and Obi-Wan reassures him that they will face whatever comes together. With this support, Anakin no longer feels isolated, and Padme notices how his anxiety is replaced with patience and hope. Chancellor Palpatine, watching from the shadows, still seeks to tempt Anakin with promises of Sith knowledge. Yet when Palpatine speaks of power to save Padme, Anakin no longer feels desperate. He begins to see through the Chancellor's manipulation and confides in the Council about his suspicions. The Jedi finally prepare to face the true Sith Lord hidden in plain sight. When the truth emerges and Palpatine is revealed as Darth Sidious, Anakin does not hesitate. Standing with Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan, he chooses the Jedi. In the battle that follows, his strength becomes the turning point. Together, they overpower Sidious, ending the Sith's plan before it can consume the galaxy. The Clone Wars reach their conclusion, and peace returns. Anakin remains by Padme's side, not as Darth Vader, but as a hero who protected both his family and the Jedi Order. Luke and Leia are born into a future shaped not by darkness, but by the light their father chose to embrace. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master in Revenge of the Sith, the entire future of the galaxy would have shifted. From a moment the Jedi Council accepted him into their highest ranks, the feelings of rejection and mistrust that had weighed on him for so long would begin to fade. For years Anakin had carried resentment, believing that his service and sacrifice were overlooked, but now he would finally feel the recognition and respect that he craved. Obi-Wan Kenobi would be proud of his brother, relieved to see Anakin's anger replaced by calm. Master Yoda would remind him that mastery is not about power alone, but balance and wisdom. When Palpatine revealed himself as Darth Sidious, the moment of truth would arrive. Anakin would no longer hesitate, no longer question his place. With Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan, he would fight against the Dark Lord with unwavering loyalty. The combined might of the Jedi Masters and Anakin's power would be enough to defeat Sidious and end his hidden rule. With the Sith destroyed, the Clone Wars would close in victory. Anakin would remain a Jedi Master, standing not as Darth Vader, but as a guardian of peace. By Padme's side, he would watch his children, Luke and Leia, grow into a galaxy free from the shadow of the dark side. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during the time of Revenge of the Sith, the course of the galaxy would have changed in ways no one could have foreseen. At last, he would have felt the recognition he had long desired from the Jedi Council. No longer treated with suspicion or doubt, Anakin would finally feel that his years of loyalty, bravery, and sacrifice were honored. The bitterness that had grown in his heart would begin to soften, replaced with a sense of belonging and trust. Obi-Wan Kenobi would look upon his friend with pride, believing that the Council had finally seen the greatness in Anakin. Yoda would still caution him that true mastery comes not from power, but wisdom and balance. Yet even Mace Windu, once doubtful, would have no choice but to accept him as an equal. This respect would soothe Anakin's inner storms, giving him the strength to resist the dangerous temptations of anger and fear. Though the visions of Padme Amidala's death in childbirth would still haunt him, this time Anakin would not carry the burden alone. As a Jedi Master, he would confide in the Council, sharing his dreams and fears. Yoda would guide him through the shadows, reminding him that fear of loss leads to the dark side. Obi-Wan would reassure him, promising that together they could face whatever fate awaited. Padme, seeing this new steadiness in him, would draw hope and courage for the future of their family. Chancellor Palpatine would continue to whisper about powers that could cheat death, but Anakin's trust in the Jedi would make him more cautious. He would see the manipulations of the Chancellor more clearly, and instead of keeping secrets, he would reveal them to the Council. This single choice would alter everything. When Palpatine's true identity as Darth Sidious was unmasked, Anakin would not hesitate between two paths. Alongside Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan, he would confront the Sith Lord with unshaken loyalty to the Jedi Order. Together, their combined strength would overwhelm Sidious, ending his dark reign before it could fully unfold. The Clone Wars would soon close in victory, and Anakin, still a Jedi Master, would shape a brighter future. There would be no Darth Vader, no Empire rising from ashes, only a galaxy where Luke and Leia could grow in peace under the watchful eyes of their father and mother. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during the event of Revenge of the Sith, his path would have been very different from the one history recorded. The acknowledgement from the Jedi Council would have filled him with pride, but more importantly, it would have eased the deep wounds of mistrust and frustration that had long burned inside him. At last, Anakin would feel respected as the powerful and loyal warrior he had always been. Obi-Wan Kenobi would be the first to celebrate his success, his heart swelling with joy for his brother and friend. Even Master Yoda, though cautious, would sense that giving Anakin this recognition might guide him toward balance instead of pushing him toward resentment. Mace Windu, though stern, would be forced to accept him as an equal on the council, acknowledging his skills and strength. This acceptance would finally silence the doubts that had haunted Anakin's spirit. As a master, Anakin would also have more confidence in opening his heart to the council. When the visions of Padme Amidala's death troubled his dreams, he would not hide them. He would share them with Yoda and Obi-Wan, seeking wisdom rather than clinging to fear. With their guidance, the burden would no longer crush him. Padme herself would notice a change in him, a calmness she had not seen in years, giving her hope for the safety of their family. Chancellor Palpatine, patient in his manipulations, would still whisper his secrets of the dark side, but now Anakin would see them with clearer eyes. He would question rather than follow, realizing that the Chancellor's interest in him was not friendship but control. His loyalty to the Jedi, strengthened by their trust, would shield him from those lies. When a moment of truth came and Darth Sidious revealed himself, Anakin would stand firmly with the Jedi Council. At Palpatine's arrest, there would be no hesitation, no desperate grasp for forbidden power. With Mace Windu, Yoda, and Obi-Wan by his side, Anakin would fight to bring an end to the Sith. The dark side would not claim him, and the galaxy would be spared the shadow of Darth Vader. The war would end with peace, and Anakin, now a true master, would be remembered not as the fallen chosen one, but as the savior who fulfilled his destiny. If Anakin Skywalker had been made a Jedi Master during the events of Revenge of the Sith, his life and the fate of the galaxy would have shifted in profound ways. The recognition he had longed for from the Jedi Council would finally be his, and the bitterness he carried deep inside would begin to fade. For the first time, he would feel that his loyalty and sacrifices were valued, and his trust in the Order would grow stronger. Obi-Wan Kenobi would be proud, standing by his brother in arms, seeing his student finally honored as an equal. Even Master Yoda would sense that such recognition might anchor Anakin, keeping him from being consumed by pride and fear. Mace Windu, though reluctant, will be forced to accept Anakin not as a reckless knight, but as a fellow master, acknowledging his strength and his importance to the Jedi. This trust would change how Anakin carried himself. When the haunting visions of Padme Amidala's death returned to his mind, instead of holding them in secret, he would confide in the council. Yoda, with calm wisdom, would guide him to see that fear of loss could only lead to darkness. Obi-Wan would stand closer than ever, ready to help his friend shoulder the burden. Padme would see the change too, noticing that Anakin no longer walked with the same restless anger, but with a quiet hope for their future. Chancellor Palpatine, still playing his dark game, would attempt to pull Anakin into his web with promises of power to save Padme. But Anakin, no longer desperate and mistrustful, would recognize the manipulation. As a master, his sense of duty and clarity would outweigh the temptations whispered by the Sith Lord. The seeds of doubt that Palpatine planted would fail to take root. When the time came for Sidious to reveal his true identity, Anakin would not hesitate. Standing beside Mace Windu and the other Jedi, he would act with courage and loyalty. Together, They would move against the Sith Lord, and Anakin's strength would help turn the tide. The dark shadow of Darth Vader would never rise, and instead, Anakin Skywalker would remain the beacon of light he was meant to be. In this future, the galaxy would not fall into darkness, for the Chosen One would finally fulfill his destiny as a true Jedi Master. If Anakin Skywalker had been granted the title of Jedi Master during the events of Revenge of the Sith, the path of history would have taken a different turn. Recognition from the Jedi Council would have finally satisfied his longing for respect, softening the storm of anger and frustration that often clouded his judgment. No longer feeling untrusted or overlooked, he would have walked with a sense of calm, carrying himself as someone truly honored among the greatest of the Order. Obi-Wan Kenobi would have felt immense pride in his former apprentice. He would have seen the acknowledgement of Anakin's talents as proof that their years together were not in vain. Even Master Yoda, though cautious, would sense balance beginning to form within Anakin, as pride gave way to responsibility. Mace Windu, despite his doubts, would be forced to accept Anakin not just as a talented warrior, but as a peer in the Council. This shift would affect Anakin's choices. When visions of Padme Amidala's death appeared in his dreams, he would not hide them out of fear of judgment. Instead, as a master, he would turn to his fellow Jedi for guidance. Yoda would remind him that fear leads to suffering, teaching him to release his attachments with wisdom rather than desperation. Obi-Wan would reassure him, promising to stand by his side through any challenge. Padme herself would see a new calm in her husband, realizing that his recognition had given him peace rather than feeding his rage. Meanwhile, Chancellor Palpatine's manipulations would begin to falter. His temptations of forbidden power would hold less weight against a man who already felt trusted and valued. Anakin, secure in his role, would begin to question Palpatine's motives more carefully, seeing the shadows behind his words. When Palpatine finally revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin's loyalty would not waver. Instead of hesitating, he would join Mace Windu and the other Jedi to confront the Sith Lord. His unmatched strength and determination would turn the tide of battle. Together, the Jedi would bring Sidious down, ending the dark threat before it consumed the Republic. In this future, the fall of Anakin Skywalker would never come to pass. Instead, he would rise to his true destiny as a Jedi Master, protecting the galaxy not through fear and anger, but through wisdom, loyalty, and the light of the Force. Meanwhile, Chancellor Palpatine's manipulations would begin to falter. His temptations of forbidden power would hold less weight against a man who already felt trusted and valued. Anakin, secure in his role, would begin to question Palpatine's motives more carefully, seeing the shadows behind his words. When Palpatine finally revealed himself as Darth Sidious, Anakin's loyalty would not waver. Instead of hesitating, he would join Mace Windu and the other Jedi to confront the Sith Lord. His unmatched strength and determination would turn the tide of battle. Together, the Jedi would bring Sidious down, ending the dark threat before it consumed the Republic. In this future, the fall of Anakin Skywalker would never come to pass. Instead, he would rise to his true destiny as a Jedi Master, protecting the galaxy not through fear and anger, but through wisdom, loyalty, and the light of the Force.